Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we explore fascinating sources and, pull out the key ideas for you.
Hmm.
Today, we're digging into something a listener shared, parts of purifying one's life, specifically the Saleka Sutta.
Right, from the Majjhima Nikaya.
Yeah.
It translates roughly as a discourse on the desireless life.
And it's a teaching from the Buddha given way back at Jedda's Grove in Savatthi.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is the format. It's actually a conversation.
Oh, right. Between the Buddha and Mahakunda, a venerable monk.
Exactly. And Mahakunda kicks things off with this really great question.
Which is?
He basically asks, look, if a monk reflects wisely, do these unwholesome views just fade away on their own? It kind of gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it?
It really does. You'd sort of assume that a big insight would just wipe the slate clean, maybe?
You might think so. But the Buddha's answer goes much deeper.
Okay.
He says that to really let go of those views, you need to understand where they come from, where they hang out, how they, operate.
And the key insight for that is seeing reality as, how does it go? Not mine, not I, not myself.
That's the one. It's crucial.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. Why is that specific perspective so important here?
Well, it's pretty fundamental in this teaching. The whole idea of a fixed, separate self that's often seen as the root cause of a lot of problems.
Like attachment, clinging, that sort of thing.
Exactly. That feeling of me versus everything else. So by learning to see things, phenomena as lacking this permanent inherent self, the very foundation for those unwholesome views starts to crumble. It's about taking apart that ego-based way of seeing things, which is, the source of suffering.
Right. It makes total sense. Like weeding a garden, just cutting the tops won't do it. You need the roots.
Precisely. This not self-insight is like getting to the root.
Now, something else that really jumped out at me was how the Buddha then talks about what a desireless life isn't.
Yes. That's such an important section.
He goes through all these, incredibly deep meditative states.
The jhanas, yeah. And the formless realms.
And he says, basically, these are great, but they aren't it. They aren't the ultimate desireless life he's actually talking about.
This is so vital. Because it's easy to get stuck, right? You hit some amazing state in meditation and think, okay, I'm done. This is enlightenment.
Yeah, exactly. So
he carefully examines the four jhanas. These are states of deep concentration, becoming more refined. Starts with the first one.
The first jhana. That's the one with joy and pleasure born from being secluded, right?
That's it. And a monk in that state might think, aha, this is it. Desireless life achieved.
But the Buddha steps in and says...
He says, no, that's not quite it. He clarifies, we call that dwelling happily in this very life.
So it's good, it's happy, but it's distinct from being truly desireless in this ultimate sense.
Exactly. It's a crucial distinction. Then he moves to the second jhana.
Okay, what happens there?
Well, the sort of mental chatter, the thinking and reasoning, it fades away. There's a deeper calm, more unified concentration.
And again, the monk might think,
okay, this must be it. Surely this is the desireless life.
But again,
the Buddha says, nope, also dwelling happily in this very life. And he does the same for the third jhana.
Which is characterized by
equanimity and mindfulness, a very balanced, aware state.
Still dwelling happily.
And the fourth jhana, which is even purer in terms of that equanimity and mindfulness.
Same clarification.
Same clarification. These are peaceful states, pleasant states, absolutely variable, but they are not in themselves the complete picture of the desireless life he's outlining.
It's like he's warning against getting attached even to these really profound experiences, like, don't stop here.
Precisely. And it continues beyond the jhanas into the formless realms.
Right, there's really abstract states, boundless space.
Boundless consciousness, the realm of nothingness, and then that really subtle one, neither perception nor non-perception.
Wow. And in each of those, someone could easily think, okay, now I've reached it, no desire here. Like in boundless space, all limits dissolve.
You'd think so. No boundaries must mean no desires, right?
Yeah. But the Buddha says,
still not quite the target. He calls dwelling in these states dwelling peacefully.
Peacefully, not desirelessly.
Right. He makes that distinction for all four formless realms. Even these incredibly refined states, which seem like the peak of detachment, aren't the full story of what he means by a desireless life here.
So what does this all point to? If it's not just about these altered states.
It points to the fact that the Buddha's idea of a desireless life is much, much broader. It's not just about what happens on the meditation cushion. It deeply involves our ethics, our conduct, how we interact with everything.
Okay, so having cleared up what it isn't, he then lays out what it is.
Exactly. And it becomes very practical, very much about active choices.
Yeah, that comparative structure really stood out. Others might do X, but we refrain from X. It's a constant contrast.
It is a conscious cultivation, and it starts with our physical behavior, like refraining from harming living beings. Definitely no killing, no stealing, taking what isn't freely given, and refraining from unchaste conduct. Basically upholding celibacy in that monastic context.
Then he moves on to speech, which is huge.
Absolutely. Refrain from lying is foundational. Then, avoiding divisive speech words that split people up.
Gossip, slander, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Also, avoiding harsh speech yelling, insults. And finally, idle chatter. Pointless talk.
Just filling the air. Instead, cultivating speech with purpose and benefit.
Right. Then it goes internal, to the mind.
Covetousness and ill will.
Precisely. Wanting what others have, and that negative, harmful intention towards others. The goal is non-covetousness and non-ill will. Really fundamental shifts.
And then there's a whole area of views and intentions, moving from wrong view to right view.
Yes, aligning your understanding with reality as it's presented in the teaching, and wrong intention to right intention, making sure your motivations are wholesome.
This sounds a lot like the Eightfold Path.
It is. He basically runs through the key elements, but focusing on the right version. Right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort. Mindfulness, concentration, knowledge, and finally, right liberation.
So it's about actively building these positive qualities in every part of your life.
You've got it. It's a complete overhaul.
But he doesn't stop there. The list goes on, targeting specific hindrances.
Like what?
Things like drowsiness and laziness, that mental fog and lack of energy. He urges freedom from that.
We can all relate to that one.
Definitely. Also, conceit, thinking you're better than others, and doubt, that indecisiveness that holds you back.
Getting rid of anger and hostility too, right?
Big ones. Cultivating gratitude instead of ingratitude. Non-rivalry instead of envy and comparison.
It's so detailed. He covers envy, stinginess.
Deceitfulness, pretense. It's like he's shining a light on all these subtle ways we create suffering.
And for each one, there's the antidote. Honesty instead of deceit. Genuineness instead of putting on a front. Exactly. And overcoming obstinacy, being stubborn instead. Being gentle and reasonable. Humility instead of pride.
Obedience to the wholesome path, associating with good people.
Heedfulness, paying attention instead of carelessness. Faith instead of lack of faith. Even shame and fear around doing wrong.
Having that moral compass.
Yes. And cultivating learning, energy, clear mindfulness, wisdom. And this is a really key one.
What's that?
Being able to let go of your views easily, not clinging rigidly to your opinions, non-clinging.
Wow, that is incredibly comprehensive. It's not about withdrawing from the world at all, is it?
Not in the sense of ignoring conduct. It's about how you engage within the world, your relationships, your thoughts, everything. And then he has this fascinating point about intention.
Oh, yeah. What does he say?
He says that even just forming the intention to cultivate these wholesome qualities is already hugely beneficial.
Really? Just the thought?
Just the resolve. And then he asks, rhetorically, if the intention is good, imagine how much more benefit comes from actually doing it, putting it into practice with your body and speech.
That really connects the inner and outer work.
It does. And it leads him to this analogy about paths and river crossings.
The dangerous versus the safe ones.
Yeah. Just like you'd naturally avoid a dangerous path or a treacherous ford in a river, you should consciously turn away from harmful actions.
And embrace the wholesome alternative instead.
Exactly. He keeps pairing them up. Here's the negative. Here's the positive counterpart. That pairing is the way to purify yourself, the means of escape.
So it's very actionable. Avoid this, cultivate that. And it's not just about avoiding bad stuff. It's about moving towards something better.
Precisely. He states clearly that unwholesome qualities lead downwards, towards more suffering. But wholesome qualities lead upwards, towards greatness, towards excellence.
So cultivating these things actually elevates you.
That's the idea. He repeats many of the pairings, again, in this context, do this wholesome thing to attain excellence. It reinforces the positive direction.
And then there's that really striking image about mud.
Ah, yes. The mud analogy, it's powerful.
He says you can't pull someone else out of the mud if you're stuck in it yourself.
Exactly. You need to be on solid ground first.
Which means?
It means self-mastery is essential. You need your own self-discipline, your own self-control, your own inner peace before you can effectively help or guide anyone else towards those things.
So all those practices we listed, refraining from harm, cultivating kindness, wisdom, etc., that's how you get yourself out of the mud.
That's precisely it. Those are the tools for achieving that inner stability, that solid ground. And he ties this directly to the ultimate goal, nibbana, liberation,
So.
by repeating the pairings one more time, framing them as the very means to attain that ultimate inner peace and freedom.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive on the Saleka Sutta, the big takeaway seems to be that this desireless life isn't just about meditation highs.
No, far from it. It's a really complete path. Ethical conduct, mental training, a constant conscious effort.
Choosing again and again to avoid the harmful and cultivate the wholesome.
Yes, it's active, it's comparative, looking at how others might act versus how you are choosing to act on this path. It requires ongoing attention.
And that strong link between cleaning up your own act, so to speak, and then being able to actually help others.
Absolutely. You can't pour from an empty cup, as they say. You need that inner grounding first.
The Buddha finishes the discourse with some encouragement for Mahakunda, doesn't he?
He does, a very compassionate ending. He tells him basically, I've shown you the way to desireless life, how to cultivate good thoughts, avoid bad paths, reach excellence, find liberation.
Like the map is here.
Now you need to walk the path. He encourages diligent practice, finding quiet places, not delaying, so there's no regret later.
And he notes the scope of it all. 44 aspects, 5 categories.
Yeah, describing it as deep and profound, like the ocean. It really emphasizes that this isn't a superficial practice.
So, for you listening, as you think about all this, maybe just pick one or two of those contrasting pairs. You know, like harsh speech versus gentle speech, or stinginess versus generosity. Where do you see that playing out in your own life? Not in a judgmental way, just observing.
Yeah, just noticing the dynamic.
And maybe, just maybe, think about one tiny step you could take. Just a small shift towards cultivating that more wholesome quality.
Because, as the text suggests, every step in that direction counts. It's a continuous journey.